Gotcha.
Hey, how's it going everybody? It's theGameconomist here, and today I'm taking a look at the Ringed Knight Straight-Sword. This is my first time using it. You know, I've kind of avoided it up to this point because it seems like a very gimmicky weapon. And then when I used it, I was like, oh yeah, this is a gimmicky weapon. The weapon art essentially isn't that useful. It kind of does the work for you. It kind of reminds me of Frida's Great Scythe, right? Where you activate the weapon art. It has like a stance that players can detect, and then you start using your attack, and it kind of auto-attacks for you. And it's not that good. The auto attack's not that good. It's very dodgeable. It's very, it's got a big tell because you light your sword on fire and your opponent goes, oh, that's the part where I need to roll away. And yeah, it does have a little bit of hyper armor, but I noticed not enough to hyper armor through like a great sword. So if you're fighting another straight sword, you can hyper armor through them with the weapon art. But the hyper armor didn't even seem like it started up very early. It seemed like, ooh, my cat's jumping around me. It seemed like you'd go into the stance and you don't have the hyper armor, and then when you're actually swinging, you do. But that means your opponent has plenty of time to interrupt you. Like if you're fighting somebody who has like a Pontiff Knight curve sword, he can just start swinging as much as he wants, and you're not going to be able to get the stance and then the weapon art R1 out. So yeah, overall it felt very mediocre. Part of what brings this weapon down is the damage. It's not infusible, right? So you can't have dark, you can't chip through shields, and then so it's a physical weapon, and the scaling is just not that good. So it's like you end up with okay damage, but why would I use this over like a, I don't know, like a dark longsword, dark Lothric longsword, or dark Goddard's? There's no reason to do it. It doesn't have like some big range advantage or anything. Except for the weapon art. The weapon art does have pretty good range, but it's like, again, it's very gimmicky. Players can detect it and they can avoid it. Pretty much the only thing I could say for this weapon is it looks okay on a cosplay, maybe. You might use it for an invasion, but even in invasions, I was kind of like, I'm not having that much fun. You can't chase hosts down, right? You sort of can, but it's like it's not enough damage, and straight sword chasing isn't as good as a lot of other types of weapons, like, I don't know, spears, for example. Yeah, so the chasing is just kind of mediocre on a straight sword, and then it's not going to do a group fight, obviously. And then, so yeah, it's just kind of mediocre to bad in invasions. Then you have PvE, where I guess that little bit of fire damage that it does is useful for causing opponents to, kind of be stunned by the fire. But other than that, again, it just came back down to there's stronger weapons. I can just hit him with a longsword and do more damage. I can use the Goddard's and have better range. So the motivation to use this weapon isn't there. I don't see it. And I didn't have that much fun, that's the truth. It was a very kind of vanilla moveset, and then the weapon art kind of just does its thing and looks kind of like, look at me, I'm an edgelord. And other than that, I don't know. I wouldn't use this in the offhand. It has no utility, and you can't infuse it to anything, so you can't use a weapon buff on it. Yeah, it screamed mediocrity. And I know what players say. They say this. They go, well, I'd rather use a bad straight sword than a good ultra great weapon, right? Anything, right? And it's like, but would you? What if I'm using a Stora ultra great sword, right? And it's like, well, I have a straight sword. I'll outplay you because your weapon's too slow, right? Well, what if I'm using an Astora and the Arbalist, or an Astora and a offhand Dark Lothric longsword, right? Well, all of a sudden, you're just like ultimately outplayed, because now you've got to try to compensate for the attributes of the Astora sword. It's hyper armor, range, damage, and at the same time, you can't outplay his offhand Lothric longsword. So it's just kind of like, yeah, this weapon not being capable of being a utility weapon or a main hand weapon and being able to compete with just about any of the upper tier weapons, I felt like it just fell flat. And the weapon art could have been a saving grace, right? Like maybe the stance could have had hyper armor. I don't know, but with the stance not having hyper armor, the R2 being easy to dodge because of his long windup, the follow up R2 just eating all your stamina. Yeah, there were fights. Normally when I have a good weapon, I don't even lose a fight at this point. I'll just roll through everybody. And then when I have a pretty good weapon, I'll lose a few fights. And with this weapon, I think I lost 4 fights in a recording session. And that's, at this point, that's kind of a lot for me. And I was just so disappointed. I was like, man. So, if you enjoy this weapon, sorry if it sounds like I'm trash talking it a little bit. I mean, of course, I've been playing Dark Souls for a long time, so I'm always looking for a new experience. And this just didn't feel like a new enough of an experience. And at the same time, with it just being kind of middle of the pack for me, it just wasn't that much fun. Maybe I'll have more fun with the Ringed Knight Spear, right? Maybe that'll be more fun. I actually love the Spear class, so I probably will. And I'll get to that one eventually. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And leave some feedback for me in the comment section if you don't mind. Let me know what you think of the weapon. I'm probably going to give it kind of a mean rating because I didn't like it. And tell me if you think that was appropriate.